So now we have two seasons in a year. We have a short season starting from September up to December, where normally we are interrupted with short rains between October and November, where the production actually sometimes is curtailed with the short rains, but our peak production actually starts in January all the way up to March, before the onset of the long rains in April and May. So the total production here in a good season with the good weather conditions, it could be running to around between 100 to 120,000 metric tons. That would transform 120,000 metric tons will be transforming to around 120 million kilograms of salt every season. That is a whole production season starting from September up to May. We normally produce enough for our country, Kenya, and we also export to our neighboring countries which are landlocked. So we will be looking at a third of the production will be used locally, and maybe 2/3 will be exported to our neighboring countries, which are Tanzania, Uganda. Major ones are Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, DRC, and Burundi. And some bit of it also goes into neighboring South Sudan. Now, as we are looking at a production which is meeting the demand, but we have also to look at the population increase in all these other countries. So there's always a need to expand, because the production, the consumption is also increasing. The population density, the population of our East African neighbors also is increasing. So we're always having an amount of salt which we have to produce every year. That's why we are always in the process of expanding our salt works so that we can produce enough to export. Our quality actually meets international standards, in the sense that it is consumed. You could look at what we call our customers will be the big supermarkets in Kenya. You're looking at Carrefour, you're looking at the Naivas. It's meeting all it meets the international standards. As for our neighboring countries also, we are looking also in the possibility of also going into further countries like Malawi, Zambia. We are looking at countries like Chad and Central African Republic. These are landlocked countries which demand salt, and this is the only place where you have the open sea where you can produce all this salt for the consumption in that country. And as I was saying, the combined population of the whole of East Africa and Central Africa would be already putting a lot of pressure on our production. And if we are to produce more, we would require more land to do the same, to do the expansion, to do the production, more production. So at the moment, at the current production, we are meeting the demand, but we need also to expand more so that we can produce more and meet the demand. As for international other countries abroad, we are not at that level yet, but in future, as we produce more, as the salt demand is increasing, this is also brought about this climate change, then we could also be looking at international markets also. Kwa upande wa ajira kwa community, tunaweza sema imesaidia pakubwa sana, kwa sababu hapa ni mahali ambapo kwa siku moja tunawezesha kupeana watu kazi zaidi ya watu 500-600. Na hawa ni watu ambao wanatoka tu in this vicinity, hapa kwa villages, ambao otherwise they wouldn't have any work, any other place to work also. Kwa hivyo on a daily basis, we could be looking at providing work for over 600 people. Those are the people that are coming straight from the village, apart from the permanent employees which are working in our factories and in our offices here. Staff, we have a permanent staff around 150, but the casuals we are having around between 500 to 600 on a good day. Now we have like our permanent staff and our casual staff. Those are the ones that we pay. But you can see the whole salt production system, it entails so many different aspects of the works. You have the civil works, you have the transport system. So like the transport system, you are saying transporting raw salt from here to Mombasa, that one is contracted to private companies. So you could have a host of so many other players coming in because of the salt production here. You have the private entities coming to do some contract work, transporting the salt to Mombasa. You have the local labor coming to do the infrastructure development. Then you have the direct people employed in the production systems. You have the factory workers. So it's a consortium of so many operations, and it is employing not in the minimum of say around 800 people in a day. Now we have three-pronged approach to the CSRs. We have the capacity building resilience systems, like providing water and constructing water pans for capturing water, because now like in this period we have a very biting drought, and the community relies on these pans for watering their cattle. Secondly, we are looking at the vulnerable people, vulnerable families who cannot afford fees for their children. We have a program of education the children from very poor families, and we have a budget of around between 3.5 to around 5 million to support these children. So we look at the very vulnerable people who would otherwise not get a chance to go to school. Then we are also in the process of now building a new primary kindergarten, primary to secondary school level, an academy, which is being built just at the borders of our salt works, say around 2 kilometers from here. So this, we are looking at supporting the community for educating their children. It's just the vicinity. It will be like a game changer for them, because now for those people who can afford even to take their children to far away schools, they could just get the education here and get them. 120 million kilograms of salt, we could be looking at a situation where we want to upscale it. The challenges here are like, we have some pockets of land which are still in the hands of some squatters, which we are, of course, we are in the process of trying to negotiate with them, compensating. Our policy normally is to engage people, talk to them, compensate them, then we pay them, then we do the developments. The other factor will be coming like, we are also boggled in some situations where some other government departments are demanding so much taxes, like water and resource management, or these people. They're demanding so much taxes that if you put it into our cost of production, it will make this salt more expensive. It will mean it will be more. It will not be able to meet the common man's are able to buy it. So some of the other people, they don't understand the problems that we're facing. And you see, salt production depends on weather. Weather, we normally have weather that is almost going to favor us, like droughts. But normally when we have rain season, we find it very difficult to meet the demand. Challenge of production, meeting the targets will be like, we wanted to fill the gap, the shortfall. Like we had another company which it was under lease on us. Then there was a court case. Took so many years, and we cannot produce there. Our machineries are there. New machinery which you had bought are now rotting there, so we cannot produce salt in that land. Then the other challenge is like when we are now in a climate change problem. We have problem with climate change when we don't produce in the event that the rains are very high. Then we are forced to import salt from very far off countries, for example, Australia, Egypt, and the cost of salt is very, very high. So importing that salt, the cost of production becomes very high, and you will have to meet the demand for the whole of East Africa. So those are the very big challenges that we have, because now whether sometimes on our side, when there's drought, we have no problem, but when there's rain, then we cannot have the capacity to produce enough for the demand in the market. For example, to bridge the gap, sometimes we need around over 60 or 80,000 metric tons, and the salt in the international market will be costing, say, in the tune of around 5,000 Kenya shilling per ton. So you could now do the little mathematics, and you find the cost of production will be very high. So this is a very big challenge to the company, and if we could be producing locally, then it would be much better. It will be a win-win situation, because we will be creating jobs for the local community. We need in the tune of around 1,500 to around 2,000 acres of land. That would bridge the gap so that we could produce enough comfortably to meet the demand locally and for export.